Okay, guys, so I'm Robbie Crager, the Flip-Flop Flipper, and I just got to address the elephant in the room here, because every single day for the last 2 years, I get more and more of this gringo go home, or hey Flip-Flop Flipper, you're a colonizer. Hey Flip-Flop Flipper, you're a gentrifier.
Si hay alguien parásito en este país, son los inversionistas.
They say the investors coming in are gentrifying their communities and displacing them.
Que hay una intención de abandonar el país para que vengan otros a contrario a sacarnos de aquí.
Well, I've been doing this real estate investing thing for basically my whole entire career. For 25 years, I've bought distressed properties, fixed them up, and then resold them. And no one has ever told me that I was a gentrifier before I came to Puerto Rico. And so I wanted to look into it. Am I a gentrifier? Am I part of the problem? Am I the face of the problem right now? It certainly seems so. I get probably 50 things a day where I'm told, hey, go home, or colonizer this, or gentrifier that, or worse, we're gonna cut your head off, we're gonna kill you. I mean, some really sick shit gets told in the comments of these videos that get out there on Facebook or on YouTube. And because we've got a voice, and because we do this YouTube channel, and we invite people to Puerto Rico, and we spot Puerto Rico, and we love the island of Puerto Rico. We want to see the island thrive. We want things to get better. And so that gets classified with certain people as gentrification and as only bad. And these people who are putting out these kind of racist, disgusting comments, you know, they're not really even watching the content. They just, now I think at some level, they just see me and they tell me gentrifier, go home. But I put out content about Orlando, Florida, and I get go home gringo comments on it. And I'm like, hey, this is home. I've been here my whole life. But now for 5 years, I've been living on the island of Puerto Rico, and we've been doing business in Puerto Rico. And guys, we came to Puerto Rico because there's opportunity here. There was more opportunity for us to do business than there was back in the States. And I believe with all of my heart that for the first time in over a decade, Puerto Rico has a thriving economy. It's got a positive growth in the economy, and positive growth with the people, more people moving to the island than moving away from the island. But at the same time, there's a housing shortage, right? So there hasn't been development. There hasn't been a creation of new places for people to live since like 2005. So new houses aren't being built. New apartments aren't being built. This is why there's a housing shortage. Then you get the storm of the century, and it knocks a bunch of houses off of the island and creates this bigger housing shortage. So something has to give. Something needs to happen. The island is either going to flourish and have development, or it's going to stand pat and people are going to struggle and continue to see more and more struggles, right? Like, how do you solve a housing crisis? Well, it's not by saying, hey, don't move here. It's by saying, let's build more houses. It's by putting more supply to meet the demand. That's the way economics works, right? So there's a massive supply right now, and there's a housing shortage, and somebody needs to meet the demand. And guys, it's not Robbie Crager, the Flip-Flop Flipper. We're just one small company. And then all of the deals that we've done on the island, we buy severely distressed properties that are vacant and don't have a use. Like, that is part of our thesis. That's part of our investment thesis, is to come in and find these properties that we can do what we call value add investing. We know that when we buy it right, we can then put some money into it. We can hire people, we can bring it back to life and get it up to its highest and best use, and then put people in it, give it use. We're not buying properties that are filled up with people and then increasing rents. That's not the way that we invest. We don't invest in that manner. I'm just trying to give you my personal perspective here. So we buy severely distressed, vacant properties, renovate them, and put them back into the market. And a lot of what we've done on the island has been to create housing where it didn't exist. We have projects that we've done that are small complexes of 3 family houses up to about 10 family houses. Those have been our bread and butter, and we've bought these buildings that were empty, fixed them up, and then rented them out, long-term rents. That was one of the business models that we liked when we came to the island. That's why so I get all of this hate, I get all of these comments. They tell me that I'm the colonizer and I'm the devil, right? They're putting me in Bad Bunny videos and making it look like I'm throwing women and children out on the street. And I'm not, guys. I mean, that's just not who we are. Again, we've been here for 5 years. I'm a small business. Every single deal that we've done, we've partnered with locals, local contractors, local lawyers, local partners who have come in with us that we met on the island that we didn't know before we got here. We've just made it part of our investment thesis is to partner with the local population. And I expect and I hope that we have a lively conversation in the comps. Try to be respectful, right? So I'm certain that I'm gonna get plenty of you're a colonizer, you're a gentrifier, gringo go home stuff. Go ahead and do your best. But for those of you out there that are listening that actually think that you wanna have a conversation, let's have a lively conversation in the comments. Let's talk about some of these things. Let's get into it, right? I'm definitely trying to raise property values. And so on some level, whenever we buy something, we may be gentrifying. But I have questions about if I go into a neighborhood and I buy something that used to be housing, but it's been sitting decrepit for 10 years, and we bring it up to today's standards and we make it livable and we make it something that families can enjoy and use and get the benefit of, and I put it on the market, especially in an area like Puerto Rico where there's a housing shortage. And we provide housing in these neighborhoods at market rents, which means that if the rents are $500 a month and I renovate something and then rent it for $500 a month, am I gentrifying the neighborhood? These are questions that I'm asking. This is stuff that I'm bringing to the community, and love to get into it more in the comment section. So obviously, I don't think that by bringing something from no use or only used for nefarious things. I mean, a vacant building in a neighborhood, generally speaking, is used for bad things, crime, drugs, drug dealing, whatever, but it's not good. And so most of the time when we go into a neighborhood, the neighbors come around and they say, oh my God, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up and fixing it and getting people living there. Over the last week, twice I've been in Levittown at our 8 units there. We bought a building that had been vacant for years and years. It was a bank-owned building. It didn't have power and water. It just sat vacant. It was a blight on the neighborhood. The neighbor comes out every time I'm there and thanks me for having fixed it up. So here's just some stuff I pulled off of the internet as I was trying to research this topic of gentrification. Gentrification often leads to commercial development. It often improves economic opportunity, it lowers crime rates, and it increases the property values, which benefits existing homeowners and property owners in a neighborhood. Something else that I read on the internet, that I didn't know this, but did you know that when Starbucks went into a neighborhood over the last 15 or 20 years, within a quarter-mile radius of the new Starbucks, property values over a 5-year period of time rise by 96%. In neighborhoods where there is no Starbucks, property values in the same time period were rising by about 60%. Here are some other benefits of gentrification. It increases the local tax revenue. So when you buy a property that's a commercial property and it has no use, nobody in there, there's no commerce going there, there's no taxes being paid by the people who are buying goods and services. Property taxes generally aren't getting paid on these properties, especially in Puerto Rico. If you've got a vacant building that's been sitting there for 10 years, bring it to the bank. I guarantee you nobody's paying those taxes, right? Those property taxes are just sitting there accumulating year after year after year. So when a real estate investor comes along, and I get this comment all the time, oh yeah, you gringos get to come in and buy these things and you don't have to pay taxes. Wow, that's a bunch of crap. That's a load of bull that you've been sold that just isn't true. When we buy a vacant building that's been sitting for years and years, the taxes get paid, guys. If it's been sitting for 11 years and the taxes haven't been paid for 11 years, when we purchase it, the day we purchase it, the CRIM gets a check for those 11 years of taxes. Yes, sometimes there are amnesties. There are times that the government allows people to pay these property taxes at a reduced rate. And to the extent that we can fit into that window, we have done that sometimes when we're buying things. But for the most part, we don't know when that's going to happen. And so when we close on a property, the taxes get paid. And the taxes continue to get paid after we buy it. So we're in there fixing it up, and we're not keeping it in a dilapidated state. We are going to pay the taxes for the entire time that we own it. So the property taxes are paid to the city. That's a good thing, guys. That gives the city more revenues to do more things like build parks and fix the streets and maybe tackle whatever other problems there are. Gentrification, generally speaking, will draw in more businesses. So once things start to improve in an area, and we're here on Juan Ponce de Leon, historically was like the most important boulevard. It was the Fifth Avenue of Puerto Rico, if you will. This was where all the commerce happened. This was where everybody went shopping. This was where businesses were located. And I'm talking about going back into the 60s and the 70s. This place was thriving. And then over a period of time, it kind of went into disrepair. It became this place where there were drugs, lots of homeless people. There was problems with no businesses wanted to be there. So they left, and building after building after building became vacant and became in disrepair. I should have actually researched what's the word for when a town goes down. So the opposite of gentrification, right? So look, I'm going to go back and forth on this. I don't want to talk about just the pros of gentrification because there are absolutely cons to gentrification. In my research that I found, absolutely, gentrification can change neighborhoods. Here are some of the cons, and then I'll try and get into more detail about them. And you guys, again, leave me comments. Tell me if I missed anything, because I'm certain that there are things that you guys know about and you guys think about, experiences you've had that are different than mine, and I want to hear about them. I want to have the discussion. But gentrification can change the cultural standards of the neighborhood. So gentrification can change the cultural standards of the neighborhood. What's that mean? Well, let's go back to the Juan Ponce de Leon. There is an area here near where this office is, where we have this studio, where we park our car, and we call it Heroin Alley. Why do we call it Heroin Alley? Because there's frickin' needles all over the place. I mean, they're just live. Somebody stuck it in their arm, and then they throw it on the ground, and they're there every day, dozens of them. You see people shooting up in broad daylight. Right? This is something I've never seen in my life. We're in a neighborhood where some of the most expensive real estate is across the street, the Ciudadela. And then on the other side of the street, building after building is empty. It has no use whatsoever. And what you see is drug addicts sitting on the porches, breaking in when they can, but doing their drugs, selling their drugs. It's a problem. Do people think that if things improve and those people are no longer there, is that a bad thing? So the cultural and standards, I guess what I'm saying, while that can certainly be a con, right? It can also be put on the pro side, right? Like, so people who are homeowners around here probably want to see the streets get cleaned up, probably want to see the drug dealers go away. Here's a big one. This is probably the two biggest cons from gentrification that we hear about and that we see and that we know are real. Raising rents. Rents will rise when things get better. So if you clean up the street over there off of Juan Ponce de Leon, and there's no longer drug dealers, and there's no longer vacant building after vacant building after vacant building, and now there's a cafe, there's a coffee shop, there's a business, there's an apartment building, right? Rents are going to rise, and that's a problem, because people who are living in the buildings that do exist on this street, rents will rise for them as well over time. Now, this isn't something that happens instantaneously, and renters typically sign one-year leases, so the research isn't clear on exactly how much cause and effect there is from gentrification, but is it a problem? Absolutely. Rents will rise when things get better, and so that's a con. That's certainly a con for the people who are renting and living in that area and have been there for a long time. Again, I'm talking about Juan Ponce de Leon a lot, but this building next door to us, I have a friend, her name is Lourdes. She's an elderly woman. She's been living in that apartment for 6 years on Section 8, Plan 8. And somebody recently bought the building. I'm not sure what they plan to do with it, but they are asking everybody in the building to move out. So Lourdes is looking for another apartment. She needs to find something that's Section 8 approvable, so it has to pass Section 8 standards. And she only pays $600 a month through Section 8. Section 8 pays $540 or so. She pays $60 a month out of her own pocket, and it's difficult for her. I've had conversations with her. We've talked about how I would set her up with one of our property management companies and try and help her. And so we've gone through that, right? She's looked at every place from Bayamon to Rio Piedras and in between. And so far, she hasn't found the place to move. My property management team is going to take her around and show her some of the things that we have. We'll see what happens, what comes of it, right? But it has to be a good fit. It has to be something that she would be comfortable with, and it has to be in the right price range. It has to be in a spot really where she can easily get to shopping centers and things like that, because she's an elderly woman, she doesn't drive. So I see it, guys. I see that this actually does happen. Now, I don't see it as much as it gets kind of put out there by the media. Like I don't think that whoever bought this building, there's a man, he bought the building. I tried to talk to him about what he's going to do with the building, but he didn't want to talk to me, he didn't want to tell me. But I don't see him throwing people out overnight, right? Like, so this is something where the tenants have known for a few months that they're going to have to leave, that their lease, when their leases come up, they're not going to be invited to sign another lease. So rising rents and people having to move, that's real, that exists, that's a problem. And so we need to be thinking about, as real estate investors, or in the larger extent as real estate developers, to the extent that any of you become big developers like Ciudadela, there are ways that communities can come together and plan for where will people go and how will housing happen. And so these are things that I'd like to have, again, a lively conversation inside of the chat and discuss this stuff. What are some solutions? Why should people have to move from a neighborhood that they've been in for a long time and that they know and that they love and that they feel safe and secure in? And what kind of solutions are there, right? So gentrification, there's a rising cost of living, right? So this is another problem. Like when the Whole Foods comes in and it replaces your local grocery store, prices might go up. And you get this big, beautiful store and they've got everything, and it's nice to have all of those things, and it's nice to be able to buy that stuff, but some of that stuff is more expensive than what people are used to. So the cost of living also goes up. So this is a real problem. I saw this one again and again in my research. One of the big cons is that gentrification allows the rich to get richer and the poor and the marginalized middle class, there's a wider gap, a wider and wider gap. And so this is, again, something that I'd love to see different solutions for, because I don't think that it has to be that way. I do think that it can absolutely be that way. I mean, the guy who built the Ciudadela, he's going to benefit from it now that it's thriving way more than, Joe homeowner or Joe renter in the neighborhood. For sure, that's a true statement. However, they started that development back in 2005. They just finished it in 2020, and it wasn't even a thriving, and they didn't fill up all of the units until like 2021, 2022 during the pandemic. So they went an incredibly long amount of time with a ton of money, capital expenditure out there without much of a return at all. In fact, the first developer, I think, went under, and it's only the second person who came in and bought it from the bank that's actually made it successful and taken it to something where it's profitable. Gentrification will, in many, many cases, bring an increase in conflict in the community. So you have people who are feeling marginalized, and rents are rising and cost of living is going up, and it's gotten harder for them, and they're upset, and they push back and they rise up against the people that they see as the problem, the young kids, the college kids who've moved in that come from more affluent areas, and they come into these areas that they wouldn't have lived in otherwise, but this is where they can afford, and so that they get a pushback. They get a pushback on the new developments, so that when the new coffee shop comes in that wasn't there before, and he's pushing out the local guy, there's some pushback and there's conflict in the communities. We see the conflict on this YouTube channel, right? Like, so I put out videos spotlighting Puerto Rico, inviting people to come to Puerto Rico, and saying that Puerto Rico has a really good economy that's trending upward. We have population growth that's trending upward, and I get an incredible amount of pushback. I get every day, the gringo go home. I get a lot of colorful ways to tell me to go home, a lot of colorful ways to tell me that I'm a colonizer and I'm a gentrifier. Happens daily. It definitely, gentrification causes conflict in the community. So this is a problem that I'd love to see the community come together and try to solve together. All right, guys, so that's many of the pros and the cons of gentrification. We don't typically tackle big political stuff on this channel. We're more abundance mindset and believe that there's enough for everybody. And even in this situation with gentrification, I truly believe in the heart of my hearts that the community can come together and build things that are great for the community, and so that everybody wins. And that's really what we strive for on this channel. We look to partner with people. We try to partner with people. That's how we expand our business. And we like to create what we call win-win situations, where everybody who gets involved in a particular project or particular business profits from it in some way or another, grows from it in some way or another. So that's the goal here. That's the idea of the video, is let's have a lively conversation, but let's be respectful, guys. And thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe to the channel. God bless you guys. Hope you enjoyed that.